greetings to all. Welcome to another physio session of Physio TV. Today we have our guest speaker, Dr. Vidhi Gupta. She has done masters in physiotherapy, in musculoskeletal physiotherapy from Nair Hospital, and currently she has experience of 3 years with Vatsala Physiotherapy Clinic. And welcome. She is working there as a senior physiotherapist.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you, Physio TV, for allowing me to give a lecture on your channel. My
Yes.
topic for Physio TV's next lecture is limb length, its assessment and discrepancy. So I'll be discussing on that and also my experience throughout my working experience, wherever I have encountered and what I have dealt with. So I'll be sharing that with you. So let's start. The objectives of the lecture are basically to understand what is limb length, what are the types of limb length, what is the significance of assessing limb length and the assessment of limb length, and lastly, the abnormalities and the management. So, what is limb length? Limb length refers to the measurement of the distance from one anatomical landmark to another along a limb, which is commonly assessed in the lower or the upper extremities, which is used to determine the symmetry and function of the limbs. So, we are measuring limb length in order to determine whether both the sides of our body, both the sides of our limbs are symmetrical or not, because if they are not, we'll be dealing with a lot of abnormalities in function, whether if it is lower limb involved, we might deal with problems with walking. Where there is upper limb involved, there will be a lot of involvement in reaching or doing anything with the hands. So the types of limb length is upper and lower limb length and apparent and true limb length. We can also further segmentalize in measuring segmental limb length with respect to the bones. So lower limb length, the length of the leg, typically which is measured from. So in lower limb length, there are two parts, whereas the first is the functional limb length and second is the structural limb length. We also call it as true limb length and apparent limb length. So true structural limb length is measured from the anterior superior iliac spine, ASIS, to the medial malleolus, which is a bony prominence of the inner ankle. Whereas apparent or the functional limb length is measured from umbilicus, belly button to the medial malleolus. In apparent limb length, we can also take xiphisternum as an anatomical landmark to measure the limb length. Whereas in upper limb length, it is measured from the acromion process, tip of the shoulder, to the styloid process of the radius. It is less commonly assessed than the lower limb length, but it is very relevant in certain cases such as congenital deformities or post-traumatic rehabilitation. We don't usually measure upper limb length, but it is very important in cases where there is any bony deformities, congenital deformities, or in cases of amputation where the certain part of the limb is gone and we need the measurements for prosthetic fittings. So it is very necessary in these cases to measure the upper limb length. Otherwise, in routine assessment, we usually don't measure upper limb length. So yes, in the lower limb, the apparent limb length will go right from the umbilicus till the medial malleolus, whereas the true limb length will go from ASIS till the medial malleolus, or we also take lateral malleolus as an anatomical landmark. Whereas in the upper limb length, we measure it from acromion process till the radial styloid process. So types, apparent and true limb length. It is very important to distinguish between the apparent and the true limb length, because it is very important to understand whether the difference in the limb length is actually caused by actual bony defect, actual bone length differences, or any other functional abnormalities such as postural or muscular factors. So apparent limb length is basically a perceived difference in the leg length, which can be due to a functional factor such as a pelvic tilt, a muscle imbalance, or a joint contracture, but it is not due to actual bone length inequality. meaning there is not a bony defect, there is not a defect in the bone, in the length of the bone, which is causing the discrepancy, but it can be a little functional factor where there is a muscle spasm, there is a muscle contracture, our pelvis is tilted, there is muscle weakness. In such cases, there can be differences in the apparent limb length. It is measured from the umbilicus, the belly button, to the medial malleolus, or it can be also measured from the xiphisternum to the medial malleolus. It also indicates functional or positional discrepancy, which can be due to either pelvic obliquity, it can be due to hip or knee joint contractures, it can be due to muscle tightness, or it can be also due to scoliosis. Coming to true limb length is basically a real difference in the length of the bones, which is femur or tibia of the legs. In this case, I'm just talking with respect to lower limb length because that is what we usually measured in our routine assessments. So yes, true limb length is a real difference in the length of the bone, femur or tibia of the legs. It is usually measured from the anterior superior iliac spine to the medial malleolus, measured with the patient lying in supine and the pelvis squared. This two prerequisites are very important. I'll be discussing about this more in the later part of the presentation. True limb length also indicates a structural discrepancy which can be due to any congenital deformity, it can be due to bony injuries, it can be due to fractures, it can be due to surgeries, or it can also be due to a growth plate damage. What happens in a growth plate damage is whenever a growth plate in adolescence when the epiphysis is not fused, if the growth plate is damaged, it can basically go into inflammation and there can be either hypo or hyper growth in the bone. So yes, we are measuring apparent limb length either from the xiphisternum from the to the medial malleolus, or it can also go from the belly button to the medial malleolus, and the true limb length will go from ASIS till the medial malleolus. Further, segmental limb length can also be measured if you want to know where the limb defect or where the actual structural deformity is there. We can go ahead and measure segmental limb length, which is basically for the segmentalization of the findings that we have got. So first is the femoral length. It is measured from the greater trochanter till the medial joint line. Second is the tibial length. It is measured from the medial knee joint line till the medial malleolus. And the third is a thing that we do is Bryan's triangle to measure any supratrochanteric shortening. To clarify this, if we are not getting any inequality in these two things, in the femoral length and tibial length, if we want to clarify whether the deformity is at the neck level or it is above the greater trochanter, we can go ahead and measure the Bryan's triangle, which will also give us the idea about the neck length, neck of the femur length. So how to assess limb length? Firstly, starting with the assessment, we should know whether it is very necessary to assess limb length or not. We have to be very clear in a case where it is important to assess limb length and where there is no necessity to assess a limb length. So that we'll get with observation and history. If the patient is giving any history of trauma, if surgery or congenital conditions, it is very necessary to measure the limb length. If you can actually see, if there is a visual inspection of posture gait, where you can see that the limb is not equal, both the limbs are not equal, there is a discrepancy there, we will go ahead and measure the limb length. So visual inspection of posture, gait, for example, if the hip is dropping, if there is a limp, if there is a scoliosis, in such cases, we have to assess the limb length. So basically there are two techniques. First is a direct method and the indirect method. So I'll be discussing more on that. Let's move on to direct method. It basically involves measuring the limb length with a tape, with a measuring tape, measured between two defined points in standing or in supine. However, there is very great deal of debate surrounding the accuracy of limb length measurements in such cases because there can be errors with respect to the way of measurements, with respect to the clinician, with respect to the experience that he has. there can be a lot of discrepancy. So it is very necessary that we use the mean of at least 2 or 3 measures, and then we take out the mean. If possible, if we can compare the measures between 2 or more clinicians. Iliac asymmetries may mask or accentuate a limb length inequality. So if there is any iliac asymmetries with respect to iliac bone, it may mask, it may underestimate, or it may overestimate a limb length. If there is unilateral deviation in the long axis of lower limb, meaning if there is any genu varum, genu valgum, femoral anteversion, or any such cases, it may mask or accentuate a limb length inequality, because the whole chain till your back, right from the back till the ankle is involved. So in such cases, we might find deviations. Asymmetrical positions of the umbilicus. For example, if we get a paraplegic patient, if there is paralysis, the position of the umbilicus might be deviated to one side because the muscle imbalance is there. Certain part of the muscles are overactive, certain parts of the muscles are underactive. Example, the obliques. It may pull the umbilicus to one side and it may give us wrong findings. So we have to be very careful with regards to that. And lastly, our joint contractures. For example, if you are measuring the lower limb length and you have a joint contracture at knee, there may be an issue in measuring the limb length. So in such cases, it is better to not go with limb length measurements, because if the joint is contracted, you are getting the limb short. Next is the indirect method. Indirect method is basically done through palpation of bony landmarks, or it can be also done through palpation and visual estimation of the iliac crest. How we do an assessment when the patient is standing, we see the level of the ASIS, we see the level of PSIS, we see the highest point of the iliac crest. If we see there is any imbalance, there is any asymmetry, it goes in the indirect method. We have to also keep in mind that the asymmetric pelvic rotation in plane other than frontal plane. For example, if the one side of the pelvis is rotated anteriorly, it may also be associated with limb length inequality. So not just anterior pelvic or posterior pelvic tilt, we also have to consider rotations at different planes, to judge the length of the limb.